There's something unique in this piece of legislation. They're two most unlikely people in the world to become one and united in pushing for its immediate passage. Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, the principal author, and President Rodrigo Duterte, who personally conveyed through the Senate President, Senator Vicente Tito Soto III, and the Chairman of the House Committee on Public Order, Congressman Romy Acop, that I give priority in sponsoring this measure. For a moment, Mr. President, I toyed on the idea that to have this picture Photoshop para magka-holding hand sila, pero baka pareho sila magalit at mademanda pa ako. It may be worth mentioning that Congressman Acop agreed to adopt the Senate version once we approve it on third reading. For these reasons and more, it may be enough to just go through the motion of having this bill approved on second reading the soonest possible time. Distinguished colleagues, I have the honor to report on the floor Senate Bill number 1898, entitled An Act amending sections 67 and 66 and 67 of Republic Act 6975, otherwise known as the Department of Interior and Local Government Act of 1990, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. As embodied in Committee Report number 413, Senate Bill 1898 in consolidation of Senate Bill number 574, authored by Senator Trillanes IV and Senator Joel Villanueva, and Senate Bill number 1834 by Senator Escudero. In the words of Aristotle, the educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living differ from the dead. Mr. President, in law enforcement, the training of a police officer spells the difference between life and death. Our police force is given extraordinary responsibilities and accordingly extraordinary powers. In fact, they are among the few public officials authorized by law to use force in the conduct of their duty to serve and protect. By delegating such power to individuals who are bereft of intellectual, physical, and most importantly, moral competence, we do not only weaken the enforcement of the law, we also invite scorn and contempt for our national police force. It follows that for the state to preserve the integrity of its police force, there should be a high standard of education and discipline among our police recruits. As a former law enforcer myself and the 8th Chief of the Philippine National Police, I know from experience that at the minimum, a police officer should have a deep understanding of the law, physical strength and fitness, knowledge of and facility with firearms, and the justified use of force, be it lethal or non-lethal. More importantly, this representation believes that a police officer should stand firm against various tests of endurance, not just of physical, but oftentimes of moral strength. Mr. President, thousands of non-commissioned officers and hundreds of commissioned officers are recruited into the ranks of the PNP every year. Despite this, the education and training of these uniformed men at present are not provided by the PNP, but rather by the Philippine Public Safety College, or PPSC. As an overview, the PPSC is the premier educational institution for the training, human resource development, and continuing education of all personnel of the PNP, Bureau of Fire, and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, as is stipulated under Republic Act number 6975, as amended by RA 8551. The Philippine National Police Academy and the National Police Training Institute, or NPTI, are constitutive units of the PPSC with the mandates of training commissioned and non-commissioned officers, respectively. However, as far back as 2004, in the PNP Reform Commission report, the PNP already viewed the setup as disadvantageous to the institution. Said report asserted that the quality of training conducted by the NPTI has deteriorated over the years. Further, the joint study conducted by the Government of the Philippines and the United Nations Development Program, or GOP-UNDP, in 2005 attributed the problem in police training to the PPS's lack of accountability on its graduates' quality of performance, among others. Mr. President, the simple truth is that there is an evident mismatch between the PNP's training expectations and requirements to the actual services provided by the PPSC. Much to our dismay, public hearings held by the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs over the last couple of months bore a striking and appalling consistency. Police officers involved in crimes and other shenanigans such as bribery, kidnapping, drug use, and planting of evidence are the new members of the PNP. Kung sino pa ang kakalabas lang sa eskwelahan at bubot sa karanasan, sila pa ang pasimuno ng kalokohan at katiwalian. Mr. President, allow me to recount some of these police stories in a tale dark and grim. In August 2017, rookie cops, or those with ranks ranging from Police Officer 1 to Police Officer 3, allegedly perpetrated the consequent murder of 17-year-old Kian Lloyd de los Santos and the alleged related killings of Carl Angelo Arnaiz, 19 years old, and Reynaldo Culot de Guzman, 14 years old. More recently, policemen of Muntinlupa City, among whom are 5 police newbies, were busted in a case of kidnapping and hulidap or illegal arrest with robbery extortion. The victim of such crime, a 33-year-old woman and her 7-year-old child. Bukod pa rito, 3 linggo pa lamang ang nakakaraan nang kumalat ang video ng isang bagitong pulis na nakuhanan ng cellphone camera na walang habas na nanampal sa isang bus driver sa Baclaran. Noong Hulyo 31, 2 PO1 at 1 PO2 naman ang nasa kote sa Taguig City sa kasong kidnap for ransom. Samantalang patay ang isa nilang kasama na isa ring PO1 sa engkwentro sa mga pulis. Dahil sa nasabing malawakang krimen, sinibak ni NCRPO Director Guillermo Eliazar ang lahat ng 39 na pulis ng Presinto 1 ng Western Bicutan. On a positive note, let me take this occasion to cite and commend the renewed efforts of the PNP leadership under Chief PNP Oscar Albayalde to go hammer and tongs against what I referred to during my watch as the ICUs of the police force, the inept, corrupt, and undisciplined policemen. I urge them to continue scorching the earth and eviscerate the police ranks until not a single misfit is left in the PNP. The public deserves no less. Even the Philippine National Police Academy, the premier educational institution for police officers, is not immune from producing unfit and erring police officers. In September 2014, the infamous 2 million peso robbery extortion case, tagged as the EDSA Hulidap, was later discovered to be masterminded and carried out by some members of PNPA class of 2001. Meanwhile, just 4 months ago, 6 cadets who just graduated from PNPA were severely injured after being mauled by their underclassmen during an unsanctioned tradition called bawian, or payback time. Consider this. Relative to the PNP's internal cleansing program from January 6, 2016 to June of 2018, 1,787 uniformed PNP personnel were already dismissed from the service, of which an overwhelming proportion of 85% was holding the ranks PO1, PO2, and PO3. To stress, those who held the rank of PO1 comprised 45%, or the largest fraction of dismissed personnel, while the other 40% held the ranks of PO2 and PO3. One question cries for an answer: on whose heads shall we drop the axe? Mr. President, I feel the pain of having the name of the institution I once served with pride, dignity, and honor being dragged through the mire of police scalawags. Amid these anomalies that spark public outrage, we see clearly the lapses in the recruitment and education of our police officers, phases that make up the formative stage of becoming a law enforcer. You and I will agree that the formative stage is foundational in building the character and instilling the values of discipline and public service among recruits. At this point, standards should be high and uncompromising to weed out the would-be scalawags and deny them the opportunity to wear the PNP badge and uniform. Mr. President, I once chanced this passage in a book which reads, "Doctors bury their mistakes, while lawyers send theirs to jail. Unfortunately, untrained police officers do both." Ang sabi nga nila, ang mga doktor hindi naman namamatay kasabay ng kanilang pasyente. Kayong mga abogado na naririto, hindi naman kayo nakukulong kasama ng inyong kliyente. Pero kaming mga pulis, maaaring mapatay o makulong sa pagtugon sa tungkulin dahil sa pagtatanggol sa mga taong hindi rin naman namin kaano-ano o kakilala. Ako nga mismo, nung nasa serbisyo pa, hindi ilang ulit na ring muntik mapatay. Sa ambus ng NPA sa Jones Isabela, sa pakikipagbarilan sa mga pusakal na kriminal sa Tondo, Manila, sa hindi ko na mabilang na pagliligtas ng mga biktima ng kidnapping at marami pang beses sa iba't ibang pagkakataon. Ilang beses na rin ako muntik makulong, kung hindi lamang ako magaling magtago, Mr. President. I am sure most of the police officers present here this afternoon have their own similar experiences to share. Time and again, we have heard of bitter exchange of words among previous and even the new leaderships of the PPSC and the PNP relating to human resource issues. We have proven over the years that this blame game resolves nothing. Even worse, this aggravates the looming problems in our police service. Rightly or wrongly, the common tao are not splitting hairs on who is at fault. What they demand is the assurance of security and safety our police force have sworn to provide us, the citizenry of this republic. Perspective-wise, however, the PNP is at the receiving end of criticisms as it stands at the front line of law enforcement. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is high time that we stop throwing blames and start pinpointing full responsibilities. In fact, we should take note that agencies such as the National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, and the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, have their respective training academies, while the PNP, our very own national police force, is still outsourced police education to the PNPA and NPTI, both academic institutions under the PPSC and are separate and independent from the PNP. It runs contrary to the argument that a commander shall be responsible for the training of its personnel. This argument is best exemplified in the Philippine Military Academy, which is under the leadership of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. As the PNP is the civilian equivalent of the AFP, it stands to reason that the PNPA and the NPTI should also be placed under the control and supervision of the PNP. Our proposed bill sought it best to institute amendments to the current system of education and training of our PNP personnel by placing under the PNP the two constitutive units of PPSC, the PNPA and the NPTI. In our proposal, the PNP Academy will be under the direct administrative and operational supervision and control of the Chief PNP, while the supervision and control of the NPTI will be determined in the revised organizational structure of the said unit. The transfer is also hinged on the fact that over the years, only a small percentage of PNPA graduates have opted to be assigned with the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology and the Bureau of Fire and Protection. And the largest portion of students choose to join the police force. From 1993 to 2018, PNPA already had 5,215 graduates, of which 4,447 joined the PNP, while only 443 and 325 cadets joined the Bureaus of Fire and Jail, respectively. This translates to an annual average of 85% of PNPA graduates becoming police officers for 26 long years. With a greater proportion of PNPA cadets opting to be police officers and the majority of Academy's personnel who draw salaries, benefits, and allowances from the PNP, it appears logical and rational that the PNP assumes leadership of the PNPA. There is no saying that there are no evident improvements in the PPSC, thanks to the proactive leadership of the current PPSC head. However, this representation stands with the belief that the PNP can better serve the greater interest of the state if it assumes the mandate of the PPSC in the training and education of its personnel. As a consequence thereof, the PNP will be accountable to the entire gamut of responsibility from recruitment, education, field training, and deployment of police officers. Nonetheless, under the proposal, the PNPA will still accommodate cadets for the BJMP and BFP for a period of 5 years from the enactment of the proposed measure. This interim period, which may be extended upon request to the PNP, is an opportune time for the said bureaus to develop and further professionalize their own personnel. In recognition of the importance of the BFP and BJMP, the bill authorizes the Department of Interior and Local Government to create learning institutions for the two bureaus under the PPSC within the 5-year transition period. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you and I will agree that we have to bridge the gap between the training programs and policing requirements. As the PNP represents 192,000 strong force mandated to maintain peace and order in every nook and cranny of this country, I am confident that it can assume the authority exercised by the PPSC over the PNPA and the NPTI. Mr. President, by instituting reforms in the current system, we are strengthening the foundation of a highly efficient, effective, and competent police force. As former U.S. President Calvin Coolidge once said, and I quote, "No one is compelled to choose the profession of a police officer, but having chosen it, everyone is obliged to live up to the standard of its requirements," unquote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Before we recognize Senator Gordon, we'd just like to place on record that the sponsorship speech of Senator Lacson is for Senate Bill 1898. This is an act amending sections 66 and 67 of Republic Act number 6975, otherwise known as the Department of the Interior and Local Government Act of 1990, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. For the record, another sponsorship, Senator, is that Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Mr. President, respected colleagues, it is a great honor and privilege to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1898, which seeks to allow the PNP to take full control and responsibility in training the country's policemen and policewomen. I congratulate, Mr. President, our idol, former PNP Chief, Chairman of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Senator Ping Lacson, for sponsoring this measure, which will amend Section 66 and 67 of Republic Act number 6975, or the DILG Act of 1990. Mr. President, if this bill becomes a law, it can help intensify the internal cleansing of the PNP by placing Philippine National Police Academy and National Police Training Institute under PNP's administrative and operational supervision and control. Through God's grace po, Ginoong Pangulo, tayo po ay nabigyan ng pagkakataon na pamunuan ang TESDA o Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Malalim po yung paniniwala natin, Ginoong Pangulo, sa importansya ng dekalidad at angkop na training para po sa ating mga manggagawa. Pero mas higit pong kailangan ang world-class na training para sa mga uniformadong manggagawa. Walang iba kundi ang ating mga alagad ng batas. Admittedly, the current system has failed to produce the best kind of police officers in this country. But there's always room for improvement, Mr. President. We can do better. Makakatulong po ang panukalang batas na ito para masakatuparan ng PNP ang mga salitang nakasulat mismo sa pader ng Kampo Krame, "We serve and protect." Ang mga balita po noon at hanggang nitong mga nagdaang araw, na kagaya ng nabanggit na ng ating chairman, sabi po dun sa mga balita, pulis, arestado sa pangungutong, o kaya pulis, sangkot sa kidnap for ransom, ay kabaligtaran po ng sagradong tungkulin ng ating mga kapulisan. Nakakalungkot po, another simple example, Mr. President, yung pong mga gumagamit ng app sa Waze. Di po ba tuwing may voice command sa Waze na may naiulat na pulis sa daraanan, unfortunately, there's this knee-jerk reaction among our people na sila'y kakabahan o iiwasan yung pong naiulat na pulis. Patunay po na talagang hanggang ngayon, meron pong negatibong imahe ang ating kapulisan. Maglalagay po ng magandang imahe sa mga alagad ng batas kung ibabalik po sa PNP ang training ng mga pulis. Dahil tsak pong mabibigyan diin ang disiplina, tamang asal, angkop na pagpapatupad ng batas at higit sa lahat, pagrespeto sa karapatang pantao. Bukod po sa matagal na po itong hinihintay ng ahensya, alam po natin na kapag ang isang Senator Ping Lacson ang nagpanukala ng reforma, makakasiguro po tayo dahil alam natin yung laging polisiya ni Senator Ping. Ang tama ay ipaglaban, ang mali ay labanan. Mr. President, let us help our policemen and policewomen, especially the new recruits, for them to embody the core values of the PNP. Maka-Diyos, makabayan, makatao, at makalikasan, which by the way, is also the national motto of our beloved country, the Philippines. Ipasa po natin ang Senate Bill 1898. Maraming salamat po at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating buhay at makapangyarihang Diyos.
Thank you. Senator Richard Gordon is recognized.
Just a quick co-sponsorship, if I may, Mr. President, with the permission of my good friend, Senator Lacson. This is a landmark bill, Mr. President, because our experience in police work is, as pointed out by Senator Lacson in his speech, been really marked by yin and yang, the high points and the low points. And in our country, it is important, for that matter in any country, that we are able to repose confidence and trust in our police force. We have to rely on their integrity, and without that integrity, that must be reinforced by actual training in the practical arts of policing, Mr. President, they will become an effective institution. To date, many people have lost faith in many of our policemen. And you cannot blame them, Mr. President. After all, we have seen many of our policemen get involved in crimes. And really, it is very sad to note, kagagraduate lang po, involved na kagad sa krimen. Nasa academy pa lang, gumagawa na ng kalokohan in terms of hazing, in terms of abuse for their fellow officers. Nobody is forced to become a policeman. Nobody points a gun at the policeman. I've often said that when I was mayor of Olongapo. I used to say, na lang pumipilit sa inyo na magpulis. Gusto nyo magpulis. Nagpapalakad pa kayo magpulis. Kaya huwag nyo sasabihin, mababa ang sweldo, kaya kayo nangungurakot. Hindi pwedeng gawin yan. Ako ganon. And in fact, what has happened at that time was the community then raised the resources to support their policemen so that they would be able to do their job. And Mr. President, in this day and age, when you see a lot of questions on extrajudicial killings, training is very important. Gone are the days when we had investigadors. Yung talagang nung araw, meron tayong mga masasabing na mga magagaling na pulis na mga talagang pinagpipitaganan. Wala na tayong go-to investigator among our policemen, Mr. President. That is probably because parang halos, and I say this with all due respect to the Philippine Military Academy, policemen are civilian. Magagalit si Senator Pimentel, yung matandang Senator Pimentel, pag tinatawag natin ng police ranks, yung mga police natin. They are given civilian ranks. And that is why it is important that that training, that they are civilian in character, national in scope, is inculcated in their hearts and in their minds so that in practice, they can do so, they can do what they're supposed to do. Treat the civilian with respect, and using deadly force as a last resort and only in cases of self-defense. Kaya napakahalaga po na nandito lahat ang kapulisan, ang mga pinuno ng kapulisan nandito ngayon. Sapagkat ang kanilang presence dito ay a statement of commitment na they will dedicate themselves to the altar of training. Not just physical training, not just, training in the arts of investigation, but moral training. A police force that is based on great values, supported by the necessary attributes of skill, is something that is really desirable so that we could have peace and order in this country. Training must also be done in making sure that they understand that people must always be a part of the process of change. That police forces is not police enforcement is not just a means upon which they carry a gun, and therefore they are the authority. They must earn the respect of all the citizens so that pagka may nangyayaring kaguluhan, ang citizen mismo ang tutulong at lalapit sa kapulisan para sabihin sa kanila, gusto ko kayong tulungan, ibinubwisyo ninyo mga buhay, magaling naman ang ginagawa nyo, kaya ganado kami na lumapit sa inyo sapagkat ang training nyo nagpapakita na kayo hindi lang honest, ngunit skillful pa. So today I am very proud to put my thoughts into this matter. I support this four square. I was even asked by President Duterte in my meeting with him the other day at the palace if we could push this, and I'm glad my kababayan, Senator Lacson, has already gone ahead, and I could have told him that it was already supposed to be for sponsorship. And I'm happy that today the sponsorship speeches are made, and now we have to craft the legislation so that it will be an effective legislation. Not just a verbal or written law, but a law that will be carried out in swift, efficient action, accompanied by integrity and great values at all times, Mr. President. So today would be a good day in the history of law enforcement when we now transfer actual training to the PNP, because that's the way it should be. You cannot command somebody based on theory. It has to be done on theory and practice. PNPA can give you all the theories, but yung gulang, yung nakukuha sa long years of experience, yung collective experience ng mga kasama ng mga kapulisan, yun ang makakadagdag sa pagpapagaling ng ating mga kapulisan. Dapat lamang suportahan ng lahat ng nasa Senado at ng ating bayan itong move na ito. And once it is done, it must be honored by an assiduous, total commitment to make sure that the policemen in the country become really cops. Cops, Mr. President, which in the old days meant simply constable of the people. After all, police means the police, the people. Yan o ang pinanggalingan ng salita yan. So today, I congratulate Senator Lacson, and I congratulate the police forces, because once they get this law, we expect a sea change. We expect to have great pride, great passion, and great accomplishment by our police forces. Thank you, Mr. President, and I hope we can get the support of the entire Senate very, very quickly for this very, very great bill that we're about to address. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, Senator Villar would like to be recognized.
Senator Cynthia Villar is recognized.
I wish to co-sponsor the bill of Senator Lacson. I started as a local official, and my greatest disappointment in our city is the police force are not enforcing the traffic laws. So that's my greatest complaint, and I always quarrel with our traffic chief. How come he's not enforcing our traffic laws? So maybe if they will graduate from the Philippine Police Academy, they will be better traffic policemen. So I'm supporting the bill of Senator Lacson.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the permission also of the sponsor and author, if I can be made a co-author of the said measure, Mr. President.
With the permission of the principal author, yes, we would like to place that on record.
And I believe Senator Grace Poe also would like to
Likewise with
manifest.
Senator Grace Poe.
As well as Senator Sani Angara and Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Senator Angara, Senator J.B. Ejercito,
Senator Senator Sherwin Gatchalian,
Senator Pacquiao,
Senator
Senator
Pacquiao,
Binay.
Senator Binay, Senator Onasan, as well as Senator Ontiveros.
Is the Army allowed to sponsor the police?
The Army.
Yes. All right.
As a
then
co-equal,
Senator
as a
Onasan,
co-equel.
likewise, Mr. President.
Senator
Senator
Grace Poe
Grace
would like to be in.
Mr. President, as former Chair of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, I see the merits and the importance of this particular bill to finally give our PNP the chance to actually discipline and to have full accountability for the training of their police officers. So I'd like to thank the main sponsor and also the Chairman of the Committee on Public Order for pushing through with this. Thank you, Mr. President.
As well, I believe Senator Lauren Legarda would like to be a co-author. She mentioned to us earlier while we were discussing in the back.
He placed that on record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, for our colleagues to study further the measure, we'd like to suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1898. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of Senate Bill 1898 is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, while we have a quorum at hand and we have members on the floor, we'd like to, with the permission of the body, would like to act on third reading measures. So, Mr. President, I move to approve on third reading House Bill number 6065. And I'd like to make an omnibus motion, Mr. President. All these measures, all 13 of them, printed copies were distributed already to all our members for them to see.
Therefore, complying with the three-day rule.
Complying with the three-day rule, Mr. President.
All right, we place that on record, and therefore we proceed with the approval on third reading by starting with House Bill number 6065.
We ask
The
the
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
And proceed to the roll call vote, Mr. President.
House Bill number 6065, an act renaming the Naval State University, NSU, in the municipality of Nabal, province of Biliran, as the Biliran Province State University, BILSU.